Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Tiberium Armory series. This is Game Master Karakin with a video on the Juggernaut Longrange Artillery Walker. Serving as a replacement for the aging M270 multiple launch rocket system, a missile artillery system used in every major war since 1983. The Juggernaut Artillery Walker represents one of the first designs developed by the Global Defense Initiative post-Second Tiberium War. Conceived of during the war, the Juggernaut was a response to the fact that at the time of the Second Tiberium War, the GDI was running out of pre-Tiberium equipment to fulfill the role of a long-range fire support unit. The Hover MLRS, another contemporary unit of a similar type, was found during the war to be wanting, as it was reported that because the units were extremely complex, their durability and reliability, combined with high per-unit costs, and not to mention their near inability to function during an ion storm, something which was common in red and yellow zones covering the world in this period, a complementary design is necessary. In reaction to this problem, and partly due to the success of the Titan Walkers, GDI created the Juggernaut to fulfill the role during the Firestorm transitionary period. The result was so successful that the Juggernaut became the only Walker to survive the phasing out of the technology post-war. Built on the chassis of the Titan Mk1 Walker, the Juggernaut was a heavy weapon in terms of firepower, but also quite maneuverable, a perfect match for the less reliable MLRS hover tank. The Juggernaut is armed with 3 150mm cannons and a fully traversable cab turret capable of turning 360 degrees and scaling up and down at least 45 degrees. While the turret was smaller in individual size than the one for the Nod artillery vehicle, excluding of course the Black Hand artillery vehicle, developed during the First War and used throughout the Second, which used a similarly sized gun, the fact that all three could be fired at once or in a staggered series meant that the Juggernaut could more effectively saturate an area, especially when in groups. The Juggernaut was capable of moving at speeds up to 40 miles an hour on nearly any terrain, though it was likely never driven at that speed on anything but the most hardened and robust terrain. The vehicle is very heavy, and in very soft terrain, like bogs, it tends to be slowed down quite a bit. This all-terrain feature was what made it such a good counterpart to the Hover MLRS, which, while similar in ability, was generally not able to function satisfactorily in iron storm-ridden terrain. In this way, being simpler in technology favored the Walker, although any normal person to watch this 30-foot tall mech walk by, crushing cars and armored vehicles underfoot, would likely call this something closer to science fiction than fact. And that impression would not actually be that far off, as the control apparatus for the vehicle was likely also extremely cutting edge. It is not known for sure what it was, but some speculate that the same control system that lets Firehawk pilots control their planes may have been developed for these extremely complicated walkers. Just like the Wolverine, the Walker can balance on one foot, implying that the control utilized by the pilots is very fine indeed. This being the case, the Juggernaut must deploy to fire, but it is likely only required to maintain long-range accuracy. In the years after the Firestorm conflict, there were a number of flaws that became obvious that the designers began to develop for, resulting in the Mk2 version. In the interim, however, the crews of the vehicles bolted small, pillbox-like structures to the top of the vehicle to allow the infantry to fire out of, which vastly improves its survivability in areas patrolled by mutants or those loyal to Kane in resistance. This was especially necessary in these years of lowered readiness, as the vehicles no longer traveled in massive columns with the other heavy units, but most often in smaller groups that were vulnerable to saboteurs, ambushes, or commandos, who would target the legs of the walkers to quickly knock them out. The Mk2 Juggernaut is based on the Mk2 Titan chassis, with nearly every component upgraded and made more durable. The new units were equipped with an advanced fire control system that could sync with orbital EVA systems to home in on enemies. There remained a problem that plagued most of the GDI in the Third Tiberium War, however. The drawdown and massive decrease in high-technology weapons, coupled with the failure to create a successor to the MLRS, left the vehicle without a more precise counterpart. The Juggernaut was an example of a compromise on technology founded on somewhat in strategy, as Nod had access to potent countermeasure systems which could defeat missiles launched by a multiple launch rocket system, but the other 90% in budgetary concerns, much to the detriment of the entire human race in the Third Tiberium War. It is this humble GDI agent's opinion that the conflict with the Skrin could have been finished much earlier if the GDI kept their tech from the Second War and perfected it. But that's a discussion for another time. In the meantime, however, I want to leave you with an image of a herd of juggernauts bombarding Nod bases several miles away by a group of militants who make the foolish assumption that the colossal mechs are without defense. Powerful stealth detectors reveal the intruders. The mechs lower their weapons and charge the infantry, crushing them underfoot like the gods of battle that they are. After all, Napoleon Bonaparte did say, "God is on the side of the best artillery." And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll be back next week with another vehicle for the Tiberium Armory series. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and tuning in next time for another informative video in the Tiberium Armory series. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, good luck out there, Commanders.